Welcome to the Airbnb Roadmap, the podcast designed to navigate you through the entire journey of short-term rental success. Whether you're just starting out or ready to take your hosting game to the next level. My husband and I became super hosts within just months of launching our first Airbnb and have proudly kept that title ever since. With over 350 reviews and an overall 4.95 star ratings, we picked up a hack or two I'm excited to share with you. In each episode, I break down the strategies, insights, and industry secrets that set profitable short-term rentals apart. From choosing the right property, understanding local regulations, and obtaining your listing to go beyond just the basics. I'm here to share everything you need to succeed. So if you're ready to map out your path to Airbnb success and unlock the full potential of short-term rentals, join me on the Airbnb Roadmap. Your journey starts here. Hey everyone, I'm Brittany Wenninger, and today I have Stephanie Dietrich on, and we are going to be talking all about investing in short-term rentals out of state, which I know I am honestly terrified to do. All of my rentals are literally in Wisconsin, and I've never even thought about doing it out of state, which is funny because I teach people how to do it, but I don't do it myself. So we'll have Stephanie talk about who she is and how she even got into the short-term rental game. Want to take it off, Steph?
Perfect. I'm Stephanie Dietrich. I am 35 years old from Eastern Iowa. I live with my husband. We've been married for just over 10 years. We hit that decade mark.
Nice.
We have 2 fur babies. We are childless, not by choice, which kind of plays into our journey of how we got here. So we wanted to have kiddos. It just wasn't in our cards. So trying to make an impact on the world in a little bit different of a way, which is why our 2 fur babies exist as well. I work in the housing industry. I am a HUD certified housing counselor, so I help people buy their first homes. Not directly like a realtor like you, but kind of helping guide them on the education side and then helping give out some down payment assistance. I also own my own home, so I think that plays into it as well. As you know, we've bought and sold a couple of our own homes. I help people buy, their first home. So real estate has been on the forefront of our mind forever, basically. And how do you buy more homes and how do you, invest more in real estate? I mean, if you're a bajillionaire, you can afford to just buy a bunch, right? But, don't necessarily want to have to make 2 mortgage payments or multiple mortgage payments. So, how do you invest and not have to do that? So that's kind of how we got into short-term rentals. Was we know that we want to invest in real estate. We want to own more real estate, but how do we do so without, having to pay, that mortgage?
Yeah, and there's a lot that kind of unpacked right there too, is that you actually help people get into their very first property on the the lending. Is it really lending side, or
No,
is it kind of like this helping programs?
It's a total third party. It's
Okay.
just like another third party that helps, kind of an unbiased, because as a realtor, as a lender, as an attorney, you guys make money, when someone buys, right?
Yep.
So I'm kind of trying to be that third party that helps, that doesn't make any money, because believe me, I don't pay that well. But I kind of get to be that non-biased party to, if they have questions and they're not sure, how it works or what it looks like. So yeah, totally separate from lending and real estate.
Yeah, and I know, this podcast is all about short-term rentals, but quick question on that.
Yeah.
Is that just for people that are buying residential properties to own or occupy, or is there a investor avenue with this?
Generally, I think that in some places you can definitely look at buying 2 condos, right? Condos connecting. You live in one and the next one could be potentially investment property.
Yep.
For ours, for the most part, it is just getting them into that first residential property. But I'll say that we would never have been able to buy our short-term rental if we hadn't owned our home, because we used equity in our home in order to buy our short-term rental. So even if it's just so important for people who want to be homeowners to be able to be homeowners, because it really does open a lot of doors for people, just in general.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And remind me, people that don't know, I was her realtor to help her get her very first short-term rental. So we were scavenging through all the cabins and all that stuff and found a place that was absolutely perfect for them. But what was your loan program again? Was it a secondary home loan or was it?
Yeah. Yep. So
Okay.
we did a conventional secondary home loan. So that obviously looks different as far as down payment that is needed compared to what we had to have for our home. So we were able to borrow equity from our primary residence to then purchase as a secondary home.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people just struggle just doing that because they think that, okay, I need to have boohoo bucks to purchase an investment property. Like a lot of people think that they need to be very well off. But in reality, if you already have a home, you can tap into your HELOC. And
Yep.
if you bought in 2020, 2021, like you have so much equity out there
Yep.
that you
Absolutely.
can tap into and then get your investment property. Once you get your first one, then the money that you make with that first one, you can purchase your second one and then you can cash out refinance the first one, then do
Yeah.
the third one. Like once you're in the game, you are
Hmm.
in the game, which is
Yeah.
awesome.
And that's why I love like what I do, as a full-time job so much too, because the difference in someone's net wealth when you own a home versus when you rent a home. I know this is completely off topic from what we were
Oh, it's
planning, but
okay.
it is like 80% higher if you own a home, because your home the equity is going up as you make the payments and just as time goes by. So even just being able to become a first time home buyer and get into that first property really does open up a lot of doors. And that's where down payment assistance programs come in, because the majority of first time home buyers, the reason that they can't get in is because they think that they need a large down payment or they just don't have that cash. So that's where these
Yep.
down payment programs come in to help with that. And then once you're in, you're good, because then you have that equity that's being built up from the home that you own.
Yeah, I tell all of my clients, like my first time home buyer clients, that like you just need to get into
Mm-hmm.
a house. If it's
Yeah,
not your dream house, you will get your dream house in 5, 10, 15 years.
right.
But your goal is to get into a property right now, start building that equity, and
Yep.
then everything is like smooth sailing from there.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Your investment just compounds when you're making payments and when the value of your home is going up. So yeah, I tell people that I think that a lot of people really have the mindset of, I want my first home to be my forever home.
Yep.
But and I get it, because who likes to move? But use your first home to get to your forever home, because have that first home, the value of that first home is going to increase way more than you putting some pennies away into a savings account to save up for that forever home.
Absolutely. So then how did you get into like the short-term rental industry? Like why did you choose short-term rentals over long-term?
So my husband and I actually became accidental landlords at one point in our lives. When we met, he owned a home. So I didn't get to participate in any first time homebuyer programs, unfortunately, because he already owned a home. But it was a very small home. So when we got married, we decided that we also had an opportunity to move into a family home of mine. And it was not a fancy schmancy family home. It was just a little bit bigger than the home we were already in. So we decided to take the opportunity and purchase that one. And because my husband had such a low mortgage and we didn't necessarily know if we wanted to get rid of that other home, we became accidental long-term landlords. Disclaimer, we did not know what the heck we were doing at all. So the experience that we had was not the best, but a lot of that was just because we didn't know what we were doing and we had no business being landlords. So that kind of burned that bridge for us as far as long-term rentals go. So we love to travel. And as COVID hit, everyone was traveling and really looking into short-term rentals versus hotels just because of the nature of COVID.
Yeah.
So as we were traveling and staying in short-term rentals versus hotels and like we love this. And we kind of always thought we would love to have a beach house, because who doesn't want a beach house, right?
Everyone wants a
Everyone.
beach house.
Yes, until there's a hurricane and then we
Yep.
don't want them. But we do not have beach house money. So even the beach shack, we do not have beach shack money either. So then we were kind of thinking like, okay, where else, do we travel? And honestly, we ended up in Wisconsin, but that wasn't necessarily our first or only choice. We live in Iowa, not really a destination state by any means. So we kind of were looking around the Midwest and some bordering states. And that's kind of where we ended up just looking at houses in general. So it's kind of the house kind of told us where we were going to go versus picking a specific area and saying, this is where we have to buy, or this is where we're absolutely going to buy.
So then what was your biggest scare of, you live in Iowa and you purchased in Wisconsin? How far of a drive is it from your cabin?
It's about 4 hours.
Okay, that's what I thought. So what was your biggest scare? Because that's like my thing, is that if anything is over the 2-hour mark, I'm like, ooh, like I have so much lack of control, and I'm a control freak. My husband's a control freak. Like he's one of those guys that if the grass didn't get cut, he's like, oh, I'll go up there with my lawnmower. And I'm like, it's 2 hours away. Like, why would you do that? Come on. Like, there's people for this.
Yeah.
But that's my biggest scare. And I know it's one of those things I need to get over. But what was your biggest scare with that?
I mean, it's all still scary. I still have like dreams about broken pipes in the winter. Like it is like I think we have the cottage set at like 70 degrees right now, just because I'm like so paranoid of broken pipes. But I mean, it's all kind of scary, but I was kind of just like, I want to do this. So, and I loved the house that we bought. I loved it. So I was just like, we're going to do it. It's fine. And we've made some stupid trips, it's 8 hours round trip. And we've done that, in a day for something really small and stupid. And I felt like we kind of needed to do that at first.
Yeah.
But now we trust in the people that we have, contracted for up there. And they take care of a lot of it for us. So it is scary. I don't know how I got over it, because I'm also a control freak. I think because I was so in love with the house, I just was like, I have to do it. We have to do it.
So you have such a strong, like small but mighty team up there. And that is what helped you kind of like get over that fear of, hey, like if something happens, I have my teammates kind of like there to help us and guide us and whatnot. Yeah.
And I put a lot of trust in, Google, like if I need a locksmith, like finding that initially. And now that we needed a locksmith, I know who to call, so it's definitely trial and error. And, the people that you have for those things definitely are very important. Like your cleaner is your number one person.
Oh yeah.
And so finding someone to help with that. And for full disclosure, I actually use a property manager too. Initially, I thought I was going to self-manage, and I was pretty passionate about that. I had done a ton of research. I knew that's what I wanted. But right before / after, while we were purchasing, my dad passed. And so with that, I just didn't feel like I had the capacity to be able to take on all of that. But I still really wanted to be involved. So I have a property manager who also is not local. And I think that almost kind of helps, because, we know that we have people that we need to rely on, and we have this kind of, spreadsheet of teammates that we utilize. So I don't do the day-to-day or booking things, but I am the one who schedules a snow removal and a lawn care and, any little thing that needs fixed or tweaked or something like that. I'm involved in, and I'm still pretty involved in the bookings and how those go and stuff like that, because I am a control freak. And so I do want to know how those things are going, but I do have multiple people to help with those things.
Yeah. So who is your property manager?
Her name is Kristen. She's with Pirate Properties.
Okay.
She has several. I was one of her very first that were not her own, because she owns her own. Her and her husband own her own short-term rental, and they own a couple in Florida and a couple in Wisconsin. And so she has since grown, and now she has a couple in our area too, which is kind of cool.
Oh, that's cool.
But it is really nice, because I got on with her pretty much right away when we were ready to start booking. And so she's had a big hand in how successful things have been. And I'm very, very thankful for her. And she also helps with my crazy and my control issues, because she's always there to like share things with me or answer questions, things like that. So she's been a great asset to the team. And I know that, self-managing, a lot of people do that, but I think because I was a little bit further away, I needed to just have someone else to rely on. And, because of things that were kind of going on in my personal life, I was like, I need to not have to worry about everything all at once.
Yeah. So does she go to the property to like check up on it for you, or how does that look? Because you said that she's not really in the area either.
Yeah, she's not. She's closer than I am, but not local. So she's not there all the time. We honestly rely a lot on our cleaner to send pictures and, report if anything is wrong. I have a great local guy that I found on Facebook Marketplace that does our lawn mowing and landscaping and stuff.
Oh,
so,
nice.
he kind of keeps track of those things. So I'm the one my husband and I are kind of the ones who go there the majority of the time and see how things are. I mean, it's kind of nice because we have an excuse, a place to go, right?
Yeah.
And a reason to go there. So in the off season, like we try to go when it's like winter time, we're trying to go, right? Because we want to make sure that things are kept up. And that's kind of when we're able to do a little bit of maintenance inside the house anyway. But we always try to go check on things right before busy season and then kind of right after busy season too, just to make sure, anything that needs done is done.
Yeah, in Wisconsin, things are so seasonal, seasonal. And you are busy in the summertime and you have so many turns and you can't really get up there to do anything. And then wintertime though is a whole different story. Like wintertime, you're just trying to like break even.
Yep.
And that's what my husband and I do, like for all of our properties, is we actually do a yearly audit that we go to the property and we just like tear it apart. Not like actually destroy it, but we like look behind the beds, underneath the beds, like look in the oven and do a whole checklist of like, all right, cleaner, like you're doing an amazing job, don't get me wrong, but these are the items that need to be, addressed.
Yep.
And then we also look at like things that we can do that is minimum cost that will actually like boost up our properties. So I know one of our properties, we don't really have any board games or any card games or anything like that. And we're like, all right, like let's add this in there because we realize that it is a couples retreat, even though we advertise 5 people. Let's get some board games or some card games. And that actually helped us out a lot too. And I was like, okay, guys, like it's just cards, but like it's the little stuff.
Yep.
So then what would you say, besides like having a property manager in place, like what's the easiest thing about investing out of state? Like what would you say is the biggest pro?
I mean, the biggest pro is that we have an excuse to go somewhere that's not home, right?
Truth, yeah.
And it's kind of a tax write-off too, because as long as we're going up there to do something, then it's a free mini vacation. I think for me, my state, Iowa, is not a destination state. So if I lived somewhere that was a destination state, then it might look different as far as investing out of state. But I wanted some place that people wanted to go, right? You don't invest in a short-term rental somewhere where people don't go.
Yep.
So I think that's probably the biggest reason why we chose to do an out-of-state rental versus an in-state short-term rental. And we have lake access. So we don't have a dock, but we have kind of the beginning stages of the lake. So we have kayaking, and that's been a huge plus for the people that are renting. We haven't really gotten to utilize that because it's always full when it's nice enough to do that stuff, which is great. And I'm not complaining at all.
Yeah.
Kayak somewhere else if I need to. But yeah, I think that's the biggest reason why we chose to go out of state, was just because there was opportunities that were not in our state.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people, when they invest in short-term rentals, you want to pick like the best market or the best area and attractions and all that stuff, but you also want to pick somewhere that you actually want to go to.
Yeah.
And I know like when people like get up there for investing and they have like 10 properties, obviously you're not, picking to actually go there, but it's still really important because if you don't even want to go there, why would other people want to go there? And
and I think Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I totally forgot that you guys have lake access for that cabin, which
Yeah.
it makes it way better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was probably a little more personal than it should have been when you think about an investment, because we want to go there. Like, it is exactly for the people that we are. A couple with dogs, we allow pets, which is
Oh,
something
okay.
that we were really on the fence about at first. Like, we didn't know if we wanted to do that, what that looked like. The original cleaner that we had was like, I don't think you should, you know. But for me, I was like, we're a couple with dogs, and how amazing would it be? And we're in a flyover state, right? So, like, people
Mhm.
aren't flying into our destination, they're driving, right?
Yep.
So, if they're driving, then they could potentially bring their dog too. And how great to be able to go on vacation with your dog or cat. We did have a cat stay once. So I think, like, when we were looking at investments, I definitely invested more with my heart than my head, which could definitely bite you in the butt.
100%. I have a story after this about that, but
Yeah. And so that played into it too.
yeah, so again, like short-term rentals, that's my niche, like that's my specialty. I'm a realtor. I've done this for many, many, many years. I still do it myself, which is so embarrassing. Our second property, and I think I talked about this in other episodes, but our second property, I fell in love with it way too hard, like way too hard. And I was like literally offering our unborn child to this listing agent. And I remember we did a appraisal buffer for the offer to purchase. Like, I did a counter offer on our offer to purchase, and I was like, "Hey, I'll give you an appraisal buffer." And I think it was like $5,000 or $10,000. I want to say it was $5,000. And my husband was like, "Britt, you do know that we don't have any extra cash. That if we do need to bring $5,000 additional to the closing table, we're broke. Like, we will literally file for bankruptcy." Maybe not like that broke, but like, he's like, "We can't afford this." And I was like, "It's okay. Like, it'll appraise. Like, we don't have to use it. We'll just put in the offer, put in the binding contract, and we won't have to use
Fine.
it." And my husband was like, "What are we doing? Like, this is so dumb. We are so invested in this property. We are like making so many stupid mistakes." And I still laugh because I'm a freaking realtor. Like, I should
Right.
know not to get so emotionally involved in
Yeah.
investment property. And because I'll admit, like, I'm still very emotionally involved in this. And we bought this like gorgeous dining room table, and it's my dream dining room table. It's like mid-century modern. I love it. Literally, like a month after we rented it out, someone played dice on it. And my husband was so afraid to tell me. And he was like, "You know better. Do not buy
Yeah.
stuff that you love in your short-term rental because it's going to get destroyed." And I
Yeah.
literally had like tears going down my face. And I was like, "My dining room table's destroyed." He's like,
Yeah.
You know
Not your
better. Like,
right,
what are
right.
you
It's not
doing?"
yours. It's not actually yours. It is yours, but it's not yours. It belongs to the guests.
Yeah, so I understand getting emotionally
Yeah.
involved and a little sucked in too much.
Yeah, yeah. I think when we went to look for houses, we looked at a handful of them, and I was like, nope, it doesn't matter because I want this one. I want this one. And like,
Yeah.
I was just like, I just knew I was dead set on it. And my husband really loved another one that we had looked at, and I think, which was also very odd and weird. Remember how it had the fireworks stand like in the front
I was
yard?
about to say, this is the rat house.
Yeah, yeah. And it didn't have any windows on one side of it.
Yep.
Yeah, it was so odd.
I
But the
still pass
inside,
that house all the time.
really, it
I
was
do.
beautiful inside. It was gorgeous, but it didn't have windows on one side of the house. But it was beautiful because of how they styled it and decorated it. So I took
Yep.
a lot of the ideas from that house and put them into the cottage to kind of, when it comes to marriage, you have to make compromises,
Yep.
right? And it really has worked out fantastic. So, but yeah, I knew this is the one, like, I was basically like, if I don't get this one, then we're not going to do it, which is, again, don't do that. Not smart.
I am so happy that we actually got that house for you because I
Yes.
did not want you to back out because look at you now, like getting
Right,
the
right.
rental and whatnot. But yeah, that one house, the first house that you said that your husband loved, remember there was huge rat traps
Yes.
stapled on the side of the house.
Yes. Yes.
And
On the outside. Yes.
yeah, And I think that like whenever I drive past that house, I always think about those huge rat traps. I'm like,
Yeah.
what? Like, still,
Yeah.
what is going on with that house? I don't think it ever sold either.
Oh, I have no clue because, I was like, okay, bye. Although I did look at the listing pictures to steal some of their decorating
Yeah.
ideas, but yeah,
Taking
I don't know.
screenshots of it.
Yeah, that one was interesting for sure. It was, yeah. It's proof that the listing photos are not always what the actual house is like.
No, the listing photos are like they always kind of piss me off. And don't
Yeah.
get me wrong, like I list homes, I list short-term rentals, like I do it too. But the way that like a camera is set up now, that everything's very HD and a
Yep.
little bit too HD, where like if
Yep.
there's a big crack in the wall, literally the photographer can like
Yeah.
edit that crack out, and then you walk in and you're like, this was not what I
Yeah.
advertised. Which is funny because I tell my photographer to do the opposite. I'm like, don't make it very like
Yeah.
edited. Like if there's a big crack in the wall, I want people to see that
Right.
because I don't want them to like go into the property and be like super discouraged or like pissed off at me because I just wasted their time.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah. And then I also saw, and we're totally off topic, but whatever. On Zillow the other day, I saw a listing that was literally like an AI listing. Like the house looked like it was a cartoon house.
What in the
And I
world?
was like, this looks so dumb. And I was just like bashing on this guy. And I was like, literally, like the front page or front photo was just, it was like an AI.
I hate how they do the digital staging too. I hate it. I think
Oh, yeah.
I do not like it. Like I would rather there not be stuff in there than they put like this weird, and I guess it also is probably a little bit different where I'm at because like I'm very Midwest, small town, like nobody has like this like virtual looking bed in their home, right?
Yep.
Like nobody, it's not HGTV. Like you have to like come on.
Yeah.
So I hate that too. But
Oh, funny. So, okay, getting back on topic. Sorry, everyone. We haven't talked to each other in quite some time, so that was us catching up. But as far as like out of state investing, is there any like taxes that you have to worry about or anything like that?
so I think in some situations there are. With our particular county, I guess I would say on the same kind of line as taxes is licensing. So for us, we don't have any occupational taxes, occupancy tax, not occupational, occupancy
Yep.
taxes in our county specifically. I think that there are counties in other states, in probably in Wisconsin too, where you have to collect occupancy taxes. So we got lucky with that. Also, we utilize, Airbnb, VRBO, and they collect a lot of those things that you would need.
Yeah.
So unless you're, booking direct with which my property manager does do some direct bookings, which is
Oh,
nice
that's
too,
nice.
but she takes care of that part of it. So we're lucky in that aspect that we don't have that. Now we still have, it's a business, right? We have an
Yep.
LLC, which I'm obsessed with the name that we picked out for our LLC. It is Dinkwad Properties. And if you're familiar with people who don't have children, Dinkwad stands for dual income with a dog.
Yep.
So obsessed with that idea. So don't nobody else steal it because I need to do that in Iowa too. That needs to be my LLC in Iowa too. So obviously we have an LLC. We keep track of profit and loss, utilizing different programs. QuickBooks is a good one. I have one that I use now that's specific for rentals. It's called Stessa. I don't know how to
Okay.
pronounce it, but it works pretty well too. And especially if you have multiple rentals, you can kind of assign things to different areas or different properties, which we don't we only have one right now, but eventually we'd like more than one.
So
But go ahead.
that app that you just, or software program that you just mentioned, so what is
Yep.
that again? Is that for furniture or?
Nope. This is actually just for, I want to make sure that I'm saying it correctly. Yeah. Stessa. So
Okay.
it's actually just a bookkeeping software.
For
So
short-term rentals.
yeah, for rentals in general, because you can
Okay.
do long-term or short-term with it. I was using QuickBooks. I have owned businesses before, so like bookkeeping is something that's, pretty normal for me. I've used QuickBooks before. I'd also used a program called FreshBooks. And this one, the Stessa, is specifically for rentals. So you can have different properties. You can assign, if you don't have separate bank accounts, you can assign rent from, one bank account to multiple properties, things like that. So it's pretty nice to keep track of. Like I said, it's easy right now because we only have one. But when you add more to it, it's nice to be able to keep those separate and see how each property is kind of performing. So we utilize that. We pay a tax professional, a CPA, to do our taxes.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah. I would rather not the IRS be on top, after me for something. So I think it's just easier to just pay, the 150 or $200 or whatever it costs us. And it's a write-off, right? So we can do that. But yeah, I keep track of the bookkeeping myself. And then at the end of the year, so here in the next, couple months, I'll go to our CPA and bring him all of our stuff from our regular jobs, and then a profit and loss statement from the cottage, and do it that way. So easiest way for us to keep track.
Do you know, and this might be a question that you might not know, do you know if your CPA, like if there's guidelines in Wisconsin that he has to follow for the taxes, or if he has to follow like Iowa stuff?
So I think we have to file both because our LLC is specifically in Wisconsin.
Oh, okay.
So he files our federal together, and then we have to do something with Wisconsin, and we have to do something with Iowa because our regular job is in Iowa. Now, we don't get a Wisconsin refund or anything. Well, we barely get a refund. Let's be real. So I don't know exactly how that works, but I do know he has to do something with both because our LLC is registered in Wisconsin and we live in Iowa. So there is an extra layer to that.
And when you found your CPA, was that a question that you asked them of like, hey, are you specialized in both states? Like, do you know both states' tax laws and all that stuff?
Sure. So this is a CPA that we've used for a long time. Like I said, I was a business owner previously. So he was able to do our taxes with another LLC. So when we bought the cottage and when we came to him, I was like, okay, this is going to be an extra layer. Can you do this? Are you okay with doing this? And he's like, yep, no problem. So I didn't really ask much after that. He just took it and rolled with it. And I don't know for sure what the biggest difference, like tax-wise, is between the two states, or if there really is any. But for us, the biggest thing was the licensing and making sure that we were all legit with the property before we rented it. So that's kind of the scariest bit about the short-term rental life. The taxes are okay. I'm putting a lot of trust in someone to make sure that those are good. But the licensing and all the inspections and stuff are something that falls on my plate. And maybe with other people, if they had a more, I don't want to say hands-on because my property manager is absolutely hands-on, but a more inclusive property manager, they might take care of that. But it's something that I just take care of with our agreement now. But yeah, that was and you were kind of involved in the start of that. It was very scary. That was the scariest part about it because I was very worried that they were going to shut us down before we even started. So that was very scary. And I think, again, I was already set on buying this house. So it didn't matter what the process was. But looking back on it, I probably should have been more of a consideration because it is expensive, in my opinion, compared to what we have in the town I live in now. And just kind of a pain, and feels like they don't really want us here sometimes. So
yeah, and that's the biggest risk with short-term rentals, 100%. Like all of our properties, I'm still like about to poop my pants whenever I have to do that. And honestly, like Clay does all that stuff for me. Not for me, but like for us, because he's the guy that actually reads the documents, where I just see him and I'm like, oh yeah, like we have to sign it anyway, so might as well just sign it. Yeah, like I know for our first property, no rules, no regulations. Like we just had a roaming tourist license, and even like the inspector went to our house and she was like, oh, like the house is cute, good job. I'm like, are you going to inspect it? And she's like, oh yeah, it's cute. And I'm like, okay, cool. So we passed. Like, yeah. Second one, not the case. Like the second one, put us through hell, and it made us like appreciate the short-term rental a little bit more, like our cabin more. But we were about to shit our pants the whole time.
Yeah.
And sorry for swearing, but it's true. Like, it was terrifying. We had hearings. We had the neighbors show up to our hearing and like voice their opinion, and it was a lot. But overall, the townships want your money because they get the taxes off of each booking. So they want your money to help their township out. So they always give you a lot of grief, but overall, if they make money, they're happy. So what was your challenge? Like, what happened?
Well, it was just, so initially it was just a lot. So we're in one county in Wisconsin, right? But then we also had to have another county. We had to apply for a license with a neighboring county, and they had to come inspect it, which doesn't make any sense to me. It's not like it was the state and then the county. It was two different counties. So, and they came into the inspection and everything was good. There was a couple things that we were missing. We had screens on the windows and things like that. But he was basically like, no problem, just get them in before the next inspection. Like, get them in, but like, I won't come back and check until the next inspection.
Yeah.
Not a problem. Our county requires a resident agent. And this has been the biggest pain in my butt that ever. So basically what they're saying is, since you are not local, we need to have someone to contact in case of an emergency situation, which the only emergency situation that I could imagine would be like a fire, right?
Yeah.
Like, or something like that, because it wouldn't be like someone getting hurt because they would call the ambulance for that, right? So they need a point of contact in case of emergency. Well, I can't be me, right? It can't be my property manager because she's also not local. So that's kind of one of the downsides of the property manager we chose. And so initially we had it be our cleaner. Well, sometimes you change the people that help you. So we had a situation where we decided to change cleaners because while cleaners are the most important piece of your puzzle, how much they charge also really affects how well you do in your rental. So I loved this cleaner, but unfortunately she just kept charging, like adding charges on and adding charges on. So like we didn't really know how much we truly were going to spend on cleaning fees. And to put it in perspective, we charge a cleaning fee, right? When you book, we charge a cleaning fee, but does not cover the whole cleaning fee that we pay. We build some of that into our booking, our daily rate or our nightly rate. But that was something that I was not aware of, that's pretty common, that you don't just take what the cleaner charges and give that to the renter. Like you have to eat some of that. It's just part of how it works. So we didn't know how much we were eating, so to say, until like she charged it. And so because of that, we decided to change cleaners.
Managing short-term rentals can be very overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. That's why I use Hospitable, my go-to property management software program. This is a very powerful automation tool. Hospitable has transformed how I manage my properties, freeing up my times, and I only spend about 15 to 30 minutes a week managing all of my properties. Hospitable automates 90% of guest communication, syncs your calendars across all the platforms like Airbnb and Vrbo, and even coordinates with your team. It's everything you need to simplify your hosting experience and focus on growing your business. And here's the best part. When you sign up using my link in the show notes, you'll receive $30 off your first invoice. Every cent counts when it comes to investing. It's my way of helping you get started with a tool that has truly changed the game for me. Ready to save time and elevate your hosting? Click the link in the show notes to claim your discount and get started with Hospitable today. Yeah, good call on that.
You what?
It's a good call on that because like the fact that she isn't just like charging you a fixed rate, like that's not cool.
And it would depend on, so like to put in perspective, we have a tiny little house, right? It would depend on how many loads of laundry she would take with her. It would depend on if there was animals that stayed or not. It would depend on if she had to make all the beds or just
No.
one of the beds. We asked her to then, which this to me is dumb, but someone had complained about there being bird poop on one of the outdoor chairs, which our cottage is literally in the woods. So shit happens,
Literally.
So literally. So she was charging to wipe off the chairs, right? So it was like every little thing over and over and over. So yeah, we just decided to go with someone who would do a set rate no matter what it was. And that's been great. But then the problem is that now our resident agent is kind of mad at us because we, fired her and went with someone else. So then finding someone that is a non-biased party, or isn't invested in our property so heavily was the route that we went this time. So we ended up using a locksmith. So the locksmith that we had used, who was fantastic, agreed to also be our resident agent. But that was the hardest part, is like, I'm not from here. I'm from 4 hours away.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who I can trust. And really, I only need your name on this piece of paper. Like, knock on wood, like we won't need you for anything else. So that was the hardest part, I think.
Yeah, all of our resident agents are cleaners. And I know like one of our properties we've switched 3 times now. And it's not that like we fired them. It was more of like one of them was like, hey, like I love cleaning your cabin, but it's becoming too far of a drive. And then the second one was like, hey, I'm moving. I can't clean it. And I'm like, okay. But yeah, just our cleaners have always been our resident agents. It's kind of part of the deal of like, hey, if you want to get hired, I'm putting your name down. Like, no ifs, ands, or buts. It's one of those things that, like, if you want the job, this is part of it. But
yeah, we just with that experience, we were like,
It's wild that your cleaner, like, was so nitpicky. Like, come on.
It's crazy. It's crazy how expensive it is for our cottage is like 700 square feet.
Yeah.
It's tiny. And the amount of that we're charged for it was just crazy to me.
What was it, if you don't mind me asking?
It was like almost $200, over $200 sometimes.
Whoa, yeah.
And it's like, we have a washer and dryer there, but I understand that because of the time that they spend there, they may not be able to get a load of laundry done. But like, I don't know. It's just frustrating.
Oh, yeah. Well, one
crazy.
of my cabins is about 750 square feet as well.
Oh, okay. I thought we're going to say dollars.
No, no. 750 square feet cabin, and they charge us like half of that. But one thing that we came across is that, like, as we kind of like change the cleaners, we're trying to keep in the same ballpark for the price, because we do have a set price for the guests. And the price from cleaner number 1 to cleaner number 2 was like a $30 difference, but $30 every single clean adds up.
Yes, absolutely.
So all those people that already booked, like, in advance, we were charging them what the first cleaner was charging us. And then and then we increased it for the future guests, but like we had to eat that big cost, and we didn't think about that either. So when that happened, we're like, well, like, it is what it is. Not cool, but that's just kind of part of the game.
Yeah, it is definitely a game that you got to play. And I think part of why ours was so expensive is because we had a loft and a very short loft. And so it was kind of a pain to change the beds up there. But that's another thing that was thrown at us, is that we had an inspection the first year and everything was fine and we were good to go. And then the second inspection that we had, they said we could no longer have beds up there. So that changes a ton too. So here I am. I thought that I had already invested all of the big money, right? I know that I still need the little money as far as, restocking things, but I already bought the furniture. I already invested that stuff. And now we got to change it because I have to take those beds down because we can't have those beds up there anymore. But I still want to be able to host more than 2 people. So now we got to buy a sofa sleeper. And so I need certain specifications for that. And so that's kind of what I'm dealing with now. It's like 3 years later, it's like there's still stuff, into the 3rd season, and there's still stuff that's happening.
Yeah, that's wild that every single inspector is completely different and
This was
whatever.
the same inspector.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same inspector.
Mister, that was
Yes,
rude.
right. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand. And everyone's like, well, you should just like, like ask them or like, throw a fit about it. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to throw a fit because if they shut me down, I don't want to have
Yep.
to pay this mortgage payment. So I will bow down to said inspector and it will just
Welcome
be a cool lounge area. That's it.
welcome to the short-term rental industry.
Yes.
You are literally bowing down to everyone
Yes. Yeah.
just to stay alive, which is so
Yep.
bad, but so true.
Yeah, it is. And that's the nitty gritty that they don't tell you about, like it's cool to have a second house. It's cool to have it paid for, but like there are so many little things that go into it and little caveats that like pest control is another thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was a very moist, sorry for anyone who doesn't love that word, summer this year. And so we had like more creepy crawlies than normal just because
Yep.
it was just a wet summer. So yeah, that was something that from year to year it changes,
Yeah. And it's one of those things that, if you did long-term investing, it would be so much easier because you
Right.
don't have to bow down to everyone, but your
Yeah.
cash flow isn't as good.
Right.
Now, short-term rentals, though, you have to bow down to people, but your cash flow is awesome. And that's
Yeah.
why a lot of people that just have one short-term rental usually gets 2 or 3 because then they see the success, they see the money
Yeah.
flowing, and then they want to keep on going and
Yep.
keep on adding
And
to their portfolio.
absolutely. And I would say too, like, yes, the money flows, but I think for us, it has been like more of a steady stream versus, a gusher. And what it has allowed us to do is to invest in real estate and have it pay for itself
Yep.
versus, like us having to pay into it. So it's not necessarily for us, it has not been a quote unquote get rich quick thing. So we're not cash rich, but we're asset rich. So we
Yes.
have this asset that is going up in value, or we hope is going up in value, right? And it's paying for itself. So our equity is twofold with that. And that's really been the hugest value for us is that real estate, it's such a big thing to get in. Like they're never going to make more land, and housing is always going to be a need. So investing and buying that piece of dirt is so important.
Oh, 100%. And I loved what you just said, that you're not cash rich, you are
Right.
equity rich, which is
Yes.
huge because it's the truth. Like once you start getting, multiple properties in your portfolio, then you start getting kind of cash rich. But
Right.
unfortunately, a lot of us are very addicted to this, and you just keep on
Right.
investing it into another
Yeah.
property and another property. And I know Joe, who I had on before, like he's thinking about for his cabin, because he just had a baby girl, that when she's ready for college, maybe taking that equity and paying for college. And that's
Yep.
the beauty of real estate, is that you can do stuff like that.
Yeah. The home that we live in now is absolutely not our forever home. So like we're looking at this year or next, pivoting into purchasing a new home for us and then short-term renting this. So and maybe we do short-term or long-term, I don't know. But at this point, the luck that we've had with short-term versus the experience we had with long-term, I'm definitely leaning more towards, a short-term rental with it. So just being able to do that. And again, we bought this house knowing it wasn't going to be our forever home, but look at the doors it's open,
Yep. Yeah, I always have to remind my clients about that like, hey, you are 25, 26, 27 years
Yeah.
old. This is not going to be your forever home. This will be your 6, 7, 8-year home.
Right.
And then you start building into that forever home.
Yep.
But the nice thing is that once you have it, then you, just like what you said, you have options. Like, do you want to purchase a second home? Like, can you purchase a second home without selling the first
Right.
one? And if you can, what's the rental options?
Yeah. Yep.
So,
Absolutely. And that's, I mean, we're in a unique situation with our current, home that we live in, just because our interest rate is so low and we bought it for next to nothing.
yep.
And put a lot of work into it. So it's like, I never want to get rid of this because I will never find a home cheap enough or as cheap as this, both interest rate wise and purchase price wise. So like, I'm not giving it up.
Yeah, no, we're in the same boat. Like our primary residence, we are locked in at very low interest rate. And I told Clay, I was like, hey, we're never going to sell this house.
Right.
Like, and it's not, we can't do it as a short-term rental, unfortunately. So it would probably be long-term. But again, like,
Right.
there's
Yeah.
no way that I can get rid of this house.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is a whole nother episode of like rate
Yes.
lock and all that stuff.
Yes.
That's a thing. But how can people find you? Instagram, anything like that?
Yeah, so you can find our cute little cottage. It's called the Check Cottage because it's on Check Lane in Friendship, Wisconsin, which is straight out of a freaking rom-com. So on Instagram, it's just at the Check, like the country, cottage. I like to share fun little things there. We're on Airbnb, we're on VRBO, all those good things. So
Yeah, and I will say their cottage is super cute. I always see videos of you and your husband like doing stuff there. Like I think I saw a video way back when of like your husband cutting wood or something like that. And I was like,
yep.
that is like, if you want the true up north feel
Yes.
of like, hey, let's chop some wood and have a
Yep.
fire. Like that is your place. And it's so remote too. And the fact that
Yes.
you guys have kayaks that
Yes.
go on the stream and then that opens up to a lake, like you kind of have best of both worlds of like the woods, country, grind, and then you get to float down a river.
And we're only about 20 minutes away from the Dells. So
There
that's
you go.
great too, because, you know, you don't want to stay in the hustle and bustle of the Dells. You want a little bit of an escape. It's a great compromise and a great little escape. So yeah, we love it.
Oh,
and we love that we get to share it with people too.
That's awesome. I love that place too. But thank you so much for joining on this interview. It's one of those things that like, it's just something that I'm always scared of. So I love hearing your perspective and maybe I will invest out of state. Who knows?
Yeah. What's that quote? Do it scared.
Yeah. If it's not scary, it's not worth it. Or
Exactly.
something like
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks for joining me on the Airbnb Roadmap. If you're loving these episodes and want to keep the conversation going, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with someone who's ready to dive into the world of short-term rentals. Got a question or topic you would love to hear about? Reach out. This podcast is all about learning and growing together. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram, the Airbnb Roadmap Podcast, for more tips, tricks, and behind-the-scene insights. Until next time, here's to turning your short-term rental dreams into thriving realities. I'll see you back here soon.